Good morning, subscribers. So this morning I just want to take a little bit of time to cover off a topic which I just began yesterday with my year 12, so my first year A-level economists, and we're assuming that none of them have done economics before, and hence we were starting from scratch really, looking at production possibility curves. Now, very useful diagrams, particularly for those of you who are just embarking upon your economics careers. And we can use these diagrams in all sorts of different ways. We've got a range of them here, but this is by no means the finite list of ways in which you can use these diagrams. So let's get stuck into this. Number one, what is a production possibility curve? Sometimes called a production possibility frontier. Depends which textbook you're using. Well, the production possibility curve shows the maximum potential output that an economy can produce if it uses all of its resources, i.e. if all of its resources are fully employed. So if we take this first example, where we have points B, C and D, any of those points are employing all of the country's resources because they are on that production possibility frontier. So the way I like to think about it is that the frontier shows the maximum potential level of output if all of the resources are fully employed. And that would be at either C or B or D. Now, whether we're at C or B or D depends upon the consumer preferences within that particular economy. So if, for instance, that particular economy prefers Y, good Y over good X, then obviously the most appropriate position to be would be then at YC, where you're producing XC. So you've got lots more Y and not so much X. But of course, if it was the other way around, and consumer preferences were very much in the favour of good X, then it would be better to be at YD, XD, where you're producing more of good X. And that, as I say, that is dependent upon consumer preference. Now, it stands to reason, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, that if you're within the frontier, i.e. at A, for example, then there are unemployed resources, or as one of my students said yesterday, there are idle resources which need to be put to work. So if an economy has got some type of unemployment, which most of course do, it's just the extent to which varies from one country to another, but if there are unemployed resources, then we would illustrate that by positioning a point within the frontier. Okay. So what then, ladies and gentlemen, about this point E, this outlier, which lies beyond the frontier? Well, if we're in an economy which has the frontier here, PPC1, then clearly, even if it employs all of its resources, it can't get anywhere near E. And so in order to get to E, that particular economy would need to be moving up to another PPC, which might lie there, and incorporate point E, so that would be PPC2. Now, in order to get there, the frontier is going to have to move out, i.e. the productive potential of that economy, or the productive capacity of that economy, is going to have to increase. Now, how would that happen? Well, ladies and gentlemen, that would happen because there would be an improvement in or a discovery of new factors of production. So you'll remember the FOPs, which are capital, enterprise, land, labour. I'll not write cell up here because it will just confuse things with all of these letters. But if the economy in question discovered new resources or was able to make its existing resources more productive, via training or improvements in technology, innovation, research, development, all of that type of thing, then that would enable the PPC to shift outwards. And as a consequence of that, you would experience what we refer to as economic growth. And so that movement from B to E, that is known as economic growth, where your productive capacity or potential is improving. Now that's not to be confused, ladies and gentlemen, with growth of output, which is something slightly different. Growth of output means you're not using all of your resources because some are unemployed, and you get growth of output whenever you employ those resources. So for example, if we move from point A to point B, or A to D, or A to C, that would illustrate growth of output because you're simply using up the resources that you already have. So I hope you can see the distinction there, ladies and gentlemen. The PPC is drawn dependent upon the extent of your capital, your enterprise, your land and labour. That's the restricting factor, which determines whether it's here, or here, or here. But growth of output simply means that you are employing the existing resources that you have, you're putting them to work. Okay. Now I've highlighted a couple of terms here, ladies and gentlemen: productive and allocative efficiency. What do they mean? Well, let's take productive efficiency first. Productive efficiency means that you're getting the absolute most, the absolute max chow out of the resources that you have. i.e., you're putting them to work and you are operating at the country's full potential or capacity. So that means that you would be at a point on the frontier. So points C, B and D are known as points of productive efficiency because you're getting the absolute maximum out of what you've got. Allocative efficiency means that you are producing what the consumer demands. Now, we would only know if C or B or D were allocatively efficient if we knew what consumers' preferences were. So if we were getting the absolute maximum out of our resources, so say at point C, and we also knew that people wanted lots of good Y and not very much of good X, then we could say that point C is allocatively efficient. But unless we know what the consumer preferences are, we'll not actually be in a position to say whether C or B or D are allocatively efficient. We'll know that they're productively efficient, but we'll not necessarily know whether they are allocatively efficient or allocatively inefficient. Now, these two terms are something which you'll come across a lot when you move to second year economics, the year 2 economics at A level. So they're very important terms, and it's really nice to just introduce these terms at the beginning of the A-level course, something that you'll come back to a lot next year. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll leave it at that, and I'll come back to you with the rest of this. So I've got some people coming into this classroom now, so I'll come back to this later on, hopefully today. Bye for now.